The night was cold and silent, the ground was covered in ash, and the air smelled like smoke and fear. The war between humans and aliens had left the planet in ruins. Soldiers marched through burned villages, searching for enemies or survivors. No one trusted anyone anymore, especially not aliens. Private Daniel Reed walked alone near the edge of the destroyed forest. His boots crunched on broken branches and his rifle stayed close to his chest. He had seen too much death in the past few weeks. His squad was gone, lost in an ambush. He didn't cry anymore. He didn't even speak much. All he had now was the mission: survive and return to base. Suddenly, he heard a soft sound. A whimper. He turned quickly, pointing his weapon forward. In the shadows, something moved. His finger tightened on the trigger. But he held his breath. From behind a tree, a figure stepped out, not armed. Not dangerous, just broken. It was a woman, not human. Her skin was pale blue, glowing softly in the dark. Her body was thin, injured, and weak. Her eyes, large and silver, filled with tears. She raised her hands, not to attack but to beg. "Please," she whispered, her voice shaking, "please help." My son. Daniel froze. His mind screamed trap. He had seen aliens play tricks before. They cried, then they attacked, but this one looked different. She didn't come to fight. She came to plead. Her legs gave out, and she collapsed to the ground. Crawling towards him, "I don't want to hurt you," she cried. "I just want him to live." He didn't lower his weapon. Not yet, but he looked closer. Her arms trembled as she pulled something out from under her robe. A small Cuba hologram. It lit up, showing an image of a child, sick and sleeping inside a glowing pod. The boy looked young, small, and fragile. His skin was light purple, and his eyes were closed tight. "He is dying," she said. Coughing hard, I kept him hidden, but the enemy. "They found us." Daniel didn't speak. His heart beat faster. Memories flashed in his head. His own son, David, had looked like that before the illness took him. Pale, weak, helpless. That pain had never left Daniel. And now, here stood an alien. "Mother, facing the same pain, you expect me to trust you?" He finally asked. "You're one of them, I know," she said softly, "but I'm also a mother." Those words hit him deep. He looked around, no backup, no one to report. Just him and this dying alien woman, somewhere in his gut. He knew this wasn't a trick. This was real. "Where is he?" he asked. "Not far," she said, "hidden in the ruins." I was running. They shot me. "I can't carry him anymore." Daniel sighed, slowly lowering his weapon. "If this is a trap, I swear it's not," she said quickly. "If you don't help him, he'll die by morning." He looked at her bleeding arm, her cracked lips, her shaking body. No fighter would fake this much pain. "Not for this long." He walked over, knelt beside her, and carefully helped her stand. "Lead the way," he said. "But I'll be right behind you with my gun ready." She nodded, grateful tears rolling down her cheeks. Together, they moved through the trees. The ruins she spoke of came into view, ancient alien stone walls covered in vines and dust. Deep inside was a glowing pod, just like in the hologram. The boy inside was breathing, but barely. Daniel stared, his chest tight. The boy looked even weaker up close. His skin was pale, his body thin, and yet there was something peaceful in his face. The mother reached out to touch the pod, whispering words in her language, soft and loving. "Can you save him?" she asked, her eyes turning to Daniel. "I don't know," he replied, but I'm going to try." Outside, a distant engine roared enemy patrols. They didn't have much time. Daniel checked his gear, his weapon, and then looked at the pod. Again, he had a choice to make: leave now and save himself, or stay and risk everything for a child who wasn't even human. He took a deep breath and made his decision. The ruins were quiet. Only the sound of dripping water echoed through the broken stone walls. Daniel stepped carefully over the cracked floor, keeping one hand on his weapon and the other guiding the weak alien mother. She limped beside him, her breath short, her eyes never leaving the glowing pod where her son slept. The place looked ancient, not touched by war. Strange carvings covered the walls, alien symbols Daniel couldn't read. They glowed faintly, as if the building itself was alive in the center. Of the room stood the pod, its surface smooth and glassy, soft light pulsing from within. Daniel moved closer, studying the child inside. The boy's skin was a soft lavender. His face peaceful, but pale. He didn't look like a threat. He looked like a scared, sick little kid. The mother dropped to her knees in front of the pod, whispering something that sounded like a prayer. "He's been sleeping for many cycles," she said. "The stasis keeps him alive." "But it is failing." Daniel frowned. "Why didn't you ask your people for help?" She shook her head, pain in her eyes. "My people are gone, hunted down, village by village. The ones who survive hide in caves like animals he could see." The truth in her face, sorrow, loss, exhaustion. This was not an enemy soldier. This was a mother who had nothing left. "But why are they after your son?" Daniel asked. "Why is he so important?" She hesitated, then pulled a small device. From her robe, she pressed it, and a new hologram appeared this time. It showed a DNA strand. Half of it looked alien, but the other half looked human. Daniel stared, confused. "Is this a joke?" "No," she said. "He is the first, a child made with both bloods human and alien, a new hope. My people called him the Bridge. The enemy calls him a threat." Daniel stepped back, mind spinning. "You're telling me this kid is a hybrid?" She nodded. "We believed it could end the war if both sides shared something. Someone. Maybe they'd stop killing each other." Daniel didn't know what to say. He had heard wild stories during the war. Strange labs, secret projects, but nothing like this, a child made from two worlds. He had never imagined it. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed outside. Something had stepped on the ruins' outer stones. The mother gasped, grabbing her son's pod protectively. "They found us," she whispered. Daniel rushed to the entrance, crouching low behind a broken wall. Through the gap, he saw shadows moving. A scouting party, 3 alien soldiers dressed in dark armor, their weapons glowed red. They were trained hunters. "They'll destroy the pod if they see it," the mother whispered behind him. "They fear what he is." Daniel's jaw tightened. He had no reinforcements, no backup, just a weak alien mother, a half-human child, and a ruined temple. He looked back at the pod, then at the mother. "Can you carry him?" he asked. She shook her head. "I'm too weak." "Then I will," he said. He lifted the pod. Surprised by how light it was, the energy inside hummed gently, like a heartbeat, as he carried it. The child's eyes twitched, just slightly. Daniel turned to the mother. "Is he waking up?" "But it's dangerous. If the energy breaks too quickly, his body won't survive. So we need a place to stabilize him," Daniel said. Fast, the mother's eyes lit up with an idea. "There is an old science center. Deep underground, my people used it before the war. It might still work." He nodded. "Then we go there." They moved quickly, slipping through the back of the ruins. The enemy soldiers entered the front, just missing them. Daniel held the pod close, watching every shadow. Every sound made his heart race. They made it into the forest, the tall trees hiding them. The mother guided him with weak steps, pointing toward a distant mountain. Beneath that, the lab is hidden. Daniel looked at the mountain, then at the boy, then at the stars above. A strange feeling filled his chest, not just fear, but purpose. This boy wasn't just a life to save. He could be the end of a war. but only if they made it out alive. The forest grew darker as the mountain drew near. Thick trees blocked the moonlight, and the air turned cold and damp. Daniel moved carefully, holding the glowing pod tight against his chest. The alien mother followed close behind, limping, her breath heavy but steady. Each step echoed with danger. The forest was quiet, too quiet. No birds, no wind. Only the sound of their movement and the soft hum of the stasis pod. The boy inside remained still, his skin glowing faintly, his life hanging by a thread. Daniel's mind drifted. The boy's face reminded him too much of someone he had lost, his own son David. The memory came without warning, like a knife in the chest. David had been only 6 when the sickness came. Doctors couldn't explain it. One moment he was smiling, playing with his toy shuttle. The next he was lying in a hospital bed, pale and fading. Daniel had held his hand as the machines failed. He had promised to save him, but he couldn't. Now, years later, Daniel held another small life in his arms, but this one wasn't human, and still. Something inside him whispered, "Don't fail again." They stopped to rest near a fallen log. The mother sat down slowly, her legs shaking. "We are close," she whispered, "but I must tell you more." Before it's too late, Daniel looked at her, his face tight with questions. "Why now?" "Because once we enter the lab," she said, "there may be no time for words." He nodded, listening carefully. "My name is Ryla," she said softly. "I was once a scientist, working in peace centers. Before the war, when my people learned how to mix our DNA with human code, I was chosen for the trial. Not a weapon, but a new beginning." Daniel blinked. "You mean? You volunteered for this?" She smiled faintly. "Yes, the child is mine. But also yours, not by blood, but by hope. He carries parts of your species, your strength, your spirit." Daniel looked down at the boy, his heart heavier than before. "What's his name?" "Kale," she whispered. "It means light in the dark in my language. Kale." Daniel repeated the name silently. It felt real now, not just a mission, not just a burden. Ness was a life, a name, a child. A sharp sound cracked in the distance, a branch, snapping. They both turned, alert. Daniel raised his weapon, his soldier instincts kicking in. From the shadows came a small drone, buzzing quietly, scouting. Daniel took it down with one silent shot. But he knew what it meant. "They're tracking us." He said, "We need to move." Now Ryla stood, pain in her face, but determination in her eyes. Together, they hurried through the trees. Soon, the forest opened, revealing a rocky path leading to the mountain. A hidden entrance covered by moss and vines came into view. Daniel pulled the vines back and found a keypad. Ryla pressed her hand against it. Her skin glowed faintly, and the door clicked open. A metal staircase led deep into the mountain's heart. As they descended, the temperature dropped. But the walls lit up with soft blue lights. The lab had power, barely, but enough at the bottom. They found a room filled with machines, dusty, old but still alive. Ryla rushed to the center console. Placing the pod on a platform, she tapped controls with shaky hands. Speaking softly to Kale, she whispered, "Just a little longer." My son, Daniel, watched, his weapon ready, every sound echoing louder underground. He turned to Ryla. "Can this place really save him?" "It will try," she said, "but the process is dangerous, and it needs something else." "What?" Daniel asked, confused. "Human energy," she replied. "The bond in his DNA must be completed with your touch. Only then can the pod restart his system." Daniel hesitated. "You want me to connect with him?" "Only your presence," she said. "Hold his hand, speak to him, remind him he belongs in both worlds." Daniel stepped forward, placing his hand gently on the pod. Kale's tiny hand twitched. He bent closer, speaking softly. "Hey, Kale, you don't know me, but I'm here. I won't let anything happen to you." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the lights on the pod began to flicker. A faint heartbeat echoed through the machine. Kale's eyes fluttered slightly, and for the first time, Daniel saw them. They were silver, just like Ryla's, but filled with warmth, with life. Kale was waking up. The lab lights flickered as the machines came to life. Kale's pod glowed brighter, and his tiny hands moved slowly. His silver eyes opened fully now. Blinking with confusion, Ryla rushed to his side. Placing her hand gently on the glass, whispering his name, Daniel stepped back. Watching the mother and child reunite, a warmth filled his chest. Hope, something he hadn't felt in a long time. But it didn't last. The sound of boots echoed. Through the entrance tunnel, sharp and steady, Daniel snapped into action. Raising his weapon, his heart pounded. He had hoped for more time, but it was too late. A voice came from the stairwell above, cold and commanding. "Private Reed, stand down, you're under military order." Daniel's eyes widened. He knew that voice. Lieutenant Carver, a hard man, loyal to orders, not morals. 3 human soldiers stepped into the lab, weapons raised. Carver followed behind them, helmet off, eyes full of suspicion. "What are you doing here, soldier?" Carver barked. "Why are you protecting a hostile species?" "She's not hostile," Daniel replied, standing firm. "And that child? He's not a threat. He's part human." Carver sneered. "So the rumors are true. The hybrid exists. And you brought him to us. I brought him here to save his life," Daniel said, "not turn him into a science experiment." Carver looked at the pod with hungry eyes. "You think Command will let this go? This thing could be the key to winning the war." Ryla stepped forward, holding Kale close. "He is not a weapon. He is a child." Carver didn't flinch. "You gave birth to a biological weapon, lady. That makes you a war criminal in my book." The soldiers moved in, grabbing Ryla and forcing her away from the pod. Kale cried out softly, his voice weak. Daniel tried to stop them, but a rifle pressed against his back. "Don't be stupid, Reed," Carver warned. "You're already in deep trouble. Don't make it worse." Daniel's fists clenched. But he couldn't fight for armed men alone. They chained Ryla's hands and locked Kale's pod into a carrying unit. The light dimmed inside as the machine powered down, separating the boy from his mother once again. Carver walked closer to Daniel, lowering his voice. "You don't understand the big picture. This boy could give us control over their minds, their ships, maybe even their worlds. You just became part of something far greater than yourself." "I didn't sign up to hurt children," Daniel said coldly. "No," Carver replied. "You signed up to win." They marched the captives out of the lab. Daniel followed, helpless. His mind raced for a plan. He couldn't let this end like this, not again. Not another child taken by men with no soul. As the group reached the surface, the sky had turned orange, dusk settling over the forest. The light painted the trees in gold, but the moment felt cold and empty. A transport ship hovered nearby, waiting to take them away. Ryla looked at Daniel with tearful eyes. "You said you would protect him," she whispered. Daniel couldn't answer. His mouth was dry, his hands shaking. He had failed before, but this time he still had a chance. He just had to take it. Inside the transport, the chains clicked around Ryla's wrists. Kale's pod was sealed and strapped down. Carver spoke into a radio. "Hybrid secured, returning to base. Prepare containment." Daniel sat in silence, his mind spinning. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw something. Ryla slipping a small device from under her sleeve. She gave him a quick glance, the message clear. She had a plan, and she needed his help. Daniel made his choice in that moment. He leaned forward, pretending to tie his boot, and palmed a flash grenade from his pack. The guards weren't watching. Too busy celebrating their victory, he looked at Kale, then at Ryla. "I'm not done yet," he whispered. The transport ship rumbled through the dark sky, flying low over the trees. Inside, the air was tense. Ryla sat quietly, her hands still locked in chains. Kale's pod was sealed tight near the back of the ship, his soft glow dimmer now. Daniel sat across from them, his heart racing, the flash grenade hidden under his arm. Lieutenant Carver stood near the cockpit, speaking to command through a comm device. He had no idea what was about to happen. Daniel glanced at Ryla. She met his eyes and gave the smallest nod. It was time, with a quick motion. Daniel pulled the pin on the grenade and rolled it across the floor. It bounced once, then exploded in a blast of white light. Everyone screamed. The guards were blinded. Grabbing their eyes, Daniel lunged forward, knocking one soldier out with a punch. Grabbing the second's rifle before he could react, Ryla ducked low as Daniel shot the lock off her cuffs. "Get Kale," he shouted, covering her. She ran to the back of the ship and opened the pod's latches. Kale stirred weakly, his tiny hands moving toward her. She lifted him into her arms, cradling him close. Carver yelled in fury. "Reed, what are you doing?" "I'm keeping my promise," Daniel replied, and fired a warning shot into the wall. "Back off." Carver reached for his weapon, but Daniel kicked it away. A punch followed, knocking the lieutenant hard to the floor. The ship began to tilten. "Pilot, no control," alarms blared. "We're going down," Ryla said, holding Kale tightly. Daniel grabbed the emergency parachutes and tossed one to her. "Strap him in with you. Hold tight." He secured his own chute, then kicked open the side hatch. Wind howled into the cabin as trees blurred below them. "Jump!" he shouted. Ryla jumped first. Kale held safely in her arms. Daniel followed seconds later. The cold wind hit his face as the burning transport ship vanished behind them. Moments later, it crashed into the trees in a ball of fire. Daniel landed hard, rolling down a slope before slamming into a rock. He groaned in pain but stood up, bruised but alive. He looked around. Ryla. "Kale." A soft voice called back, "Here." He ran toward the sound and found them in a patch of tall grass. Ryla was scratched but smiling. Kale blinked at Daniel, reaching his small hand toward him. The boy was getting stronger. "We need to move," Daniel said. "That crash will bring scouts fast." They headed deeper into the forest, moving as fast as they could. Daniel led the way, checking for drones or enemy patrols. Kale rested in Ryla's arms, glowing brighter now. His presence warmed the air around them after hours of moving through the night. They reached a cave hidden behind a waterfall. Ryla guided them inside. This was an old shelter. She said my people used it long ago. Inside, the cave was dry and safe. Daniel set up a small fire. They sat close, exhausted but alive. Ryla rocked Kale gently as he closed his eyes and slept. "You risked everything," she said softly. Looking at Daniel, "Why?" Daniel stared into the fire. "I lost my son. I couldn't save him. But I had the chance to save yours, and I wasn't going to fail again." Tears filled Ryla's eyes. "You did not fail. You saved us both." Outside, night covered the world like a blanket, but inside the cave, a new light had begun to grow, just from Kale, but between the human and the alien who had once been enemies. In that moment, Daniel didn't see her as an alien anymore. She was a mother, and Kale wasn't just a mission. He was a child with a future, one that was worth protecting. Suddenly, Kale's body began to glow brighter. His eyes opened, and his hand lifted slowly. A small ball of energy formed between his fingers, floating in the air. Daniel gasped. "What is he doing?" "He's awakening," Ryla whispered. "He's learning who he is." Kale looked at Daniel, and for the first time spoke a word in broken English. "Father." Daniel froze, heart aching, voice shaking. "I'm here, son. I've got you." And in that cave, deep in enemy territory, something stronger than war was born, a bond between three broken lives who had found hope in each other. The cave stayed quiet through the night. Only the soft sound of water dripping from the walls and the steady breath of the sleeping child filled the air. Daniel sat near the fire, his back against the stone, his eyes never leaving Cale. The boy now rested peacefully in Ryla's arms, glowing faintly with soft blue light. The warmth coming from Cale wasn't just energy, was life, something new, something pure. Daniel had seen many strange things during the war, but nothing like this child. He didn't know how to explain it, but deep inside, he could feel that Cale was more than just a mix of DNA. He was something different. As the first light of dawn crept through the cave entrance, Cale opened his eyes. For a moment, he seemed confused. Then he looked at Ryla, then at Daniel, and smiled gently. Daniel felt something stir in his chest, a deep ache that turned into something softer peace. "Good morning," Daniel said, his voice low and kind. Cale blinked and raised his hand. He touched Daniel's wrist with his tiny fingers, and instantly, Daniel felt something strange, like a warm current running through his blood. His pain faded. The soreness from the crash vanished. Even his old scars stopped aching. "What? What did he do?" Daniel asked, shocked. Ryla smiled. "He healed you. His energy responds to emotion when he feels safe. He shares that with others." Daniel looked at Cale, stunned. "He's incredible." "Yes," Ryla said softly, "but also fragile. If too much energy leaves him at once, it could harm him." Cale yawned and leaned against his mother. Tired again, Daniel stood and walked to the cave's entrance, looking out. Over the forest, the sun was rising, painting the trees gold and green. But danger still hung in the air. "They'll be looking for us," he said. "The ship crashed nearby. It won't take them long." Ryla joined him, holding Cale close. "There is one place left, a sanctuary deep under the old city. It's protected, hidden from both human and alien scanners. Is it safe?" Daniel asked. She nodded. "Safer than here, and it might be the only place left where Cale can fully awaken his mind. His power. They are still growing. The sanctuary might help him learn to control it." Daniel took a deep breath. Then, "We go there, but we need to move fast and quiet." They packed quickly and left the cave before full daylight hit, moving through the forest. Cale stayed close to Ryla, but his eyes scanned everything around him. He didn't speak much, but when he did, his words were soft and clear, almost wise beyond his age. As they neared the edges of the ruined city, the trees thinned, and broken buildings rose like bones from the ground. Walls covered in moss, glass shattered, metal rusted. This had once been a proud center of life, now turned to dust by war. They entered the ruins carefully, Daniel checking corners while Ryla led them through hidden paths. Finally, they reached a sealed metal door covered in vines. Ryla placed her hand on a stone nearby. And the ground trembled slightly. The door hissed open, revealing a staircase leading down into darkness. They descended slowly, torches lighting the way. At the bottom, a large chamber opened, glowing with soft light. Blue crystals pulsed on the walls, and old machines hummed gently. "This is it," Ryla said. "This place was made for peace, not war." Cale stepped forward. Drawn to the crystals, he touched one, and suddenly the entire room lit up. Lights danced across the ceiling. Symbols floated in the air, and a strange hum filled the chamber. Daniel stepped back, watching in awe. Cale stood at the center of the room, his body glowing brighter now, his hands raised slowly, and the energy from the crystals flowed into him, gently, like a stream of knowledge. He didn't look like a Scared child anymore, he looked calm, steady, powerful. Ryla gasped softly. He's awakening fully now. The sanctuary is helping him understand his purpose. Daniel nodded slowly. What is his purpose, Ryla? She turned to him, her eyes full of emotion, to bring peace. Not with force, but with connection. To show both sides, human and alien, that they are not so different. Kale turned to face Daniel and Ryla, and for the first time, his voice was strong and clear. I see now, he said. You are my family, both of you. Daniel stepped forward, eyes misty. Then we protect you, no matter what. But in the shadows beyond the chamber, a hidden eye blinked red, watching everything. They were not alone. The sanctuary glowed with soft blue light. Kale stood in the center of the chamber, his small body surrounded by symbols floating in the air. The energy in the room was calm, almost like it was breathing with him. Ryla and Daniel stood nearby, watching silently, their hearts full of hope. For a brief moment, everything felt right. Daniel believed they had finally found safety, that Kale could grow in peace. But peace never lasts long in a world torn by war. A sharp sound echoed through the chamber, metal boots striking stone. Daniel spun around, weapon raised. From the far side of the sanctuary, a secret door opened and soldiers poured in. Not just humans, aliens too, working together under one flag, faces hard, weapons ready. At their front stood Lieutenant Carver, bruised from the crash, but alive. His eyes burned with anger and greed. Behind him stood an alien commander in dark armor, tall and silent, with cold red eyes. You didn't think you'd get far, did you, Reed? Carver sneered. We tracked your signal. You brought us right to the prize. Daniel stepped in front of Kale and Ryla. Gun aimed. Stay back. You'll have to go through me. Carver laughed. I plan to. Kale's light grew brighter, the floating symbols spinning faster. The sanctuary systems responded to his presence, preparing to defend him, but Ryla stepped forward, holding out her hand. Stop, she said firmly. You don't understand what you're doing. The alien commander growled. We understand perfectly. That child is a threat to both our empires. No, Ryla replied. He is the bridge between them. You fear him because he can end your war. With peace, Carver raised his weapon. Enough talk, step aside or die with them. Daniel's grip tightened, ready to fire. But then Kale spoke, his voice calm but powerful. I will go with them, Ryla gasped. No, Kale, you don't. Half to Kale looked at her, then at Daniel. I do. If I run, they will never stop hunting. But if I go willingly, maybe I can show them who I really am. Daniel stepped forward, voice shaking. You're just a kid, Kale. You shouldn't have to make that choice. Kale touched Daniel's arm, his eyes full of light. You saved me, now let me save others. Carver moved in, ready to grab him, but Kale held up his hand. The room pulsed, made every weapon in the chamber froze literally, metal turning to ice. Energy wrapped around each soldier, holding them still. Kale floated into the air, his body glowing like a star. You fight because you fear what you don't understand, Ahe said. But I am not your enemy. I am part of you. The soldiers couldn't move, their weapons useless. The alien commander dropped to one knee, eyes wide. For the first time, he felt the child's power not as a weapon, but as truth. Kale looked at Carver. You can't control me. You can only choose to listen. Carver fell backward, trembling, all the hate in his face replaced by fear. Kale turned to Daniel and Ryla, slowly lowering back to the ground. The energy faded. The weapons melted into dust. I gave them a choice, Kale said, tired now, and some chose peace. Daniel rushed forward and caught him before he collapsed. You did it, kid. You really did it. Ryla knelt beside them, tears in her eyes. My son. My beautiful boy. Outside, the world had changed. The sanctuary no longer hid them. It had become a beacon. A signal was sent. And across both human and alien worlds, something new was born, a message from a child who carried both bloods, both hearts. Weeks passed. Daniel stood at the edge of a quiet field, watching children, both human and alien, play together for the first time. The war was not fully over, but something had shifted. People were talking now, building again. Kale ran toward him, laughing, strong and healthy. "Look, Father, I made a friend." Daniel smiled, kneeling to hug him. "I'm proud of you, Kale." Ryla stood nearby, her eyes full of peace. She looked at Daniel, and for the first time, her voice held no sadness. "You kept your promise." Daniel looked at her, then at Kale. "We both did, and so, a soldier, a mother, and a child changed the galaxy, not with bullets, but with a bond that no weapon could break."